All right, welcome everybody to When the Server Room Floods, Why Backups and Disaster Recovery Still Matter. And thank you for spending part of your day with us. Most businesses think they're covered because they have backups, backs up their data. This session is about the gap between having backups and actually being able to recover when something goes wrong. Let me introduce two experts with a great amount of experience helping clients both one guide leaders, designing effective backups and disaster recovery, as well as being first responders for others during crisis when things kind of fall apart. I'm David Dean Morrow, Vice President of Strategic Growth here at NetGain Technologies. I'm also part of the FBI's InfoGuard. I'll be moderating today and adding a few thoughts along the way. We have Tyler Bowman. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. He's a senior lead engineer at NetGain. Tyler's hands-on with recovery work and has seen what actually happens when systems go down at real companies. We're also joined by Matt Scully, a well-known subject matter expert at Kaseya Datto. Matt works across hundreds of businesses on backup and recovery technology, so he brings a wide breadth of experience on what's working and what's failing. Gentlemen, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here.
Cool. Well, let's start with one of the more common assumptions leaders make and the reality that often bites them from behind after the fact when, things go wrong. Let me ask you kind of to explain kind of the difference between the assumptions that leaders make. Leaders think that I've got backups. They've spoken to their IT guy or their IT provider. We've got backups. We're all good, right? And the real conversations that are needed. Oftentimes, those are kind of, they get down into the weeds a little between RPO and RTO. So, what kind of, let me throw this to Matt right off the bat. Kind of what conversations do they need to have with their IT person or IT provider about their data?
I think that their IT provider gets it, right? Like, in other words, it's the conversations that the IT provider needs to have with them. And also, it doesn't necessarily need to go to the person that's being the administrator for the IT services at that particular company. I mean, this is a CFO thing. Right? I mean, this needs to go to the top. They need to understand that backup is literally it is what it is as a backup. But what really needs to be talked about is business continuity. And this slide right here, the RPO versus the RTO, talks about business continuity. I mean, if you're in a law firm and a disaster happens, let's say at 11 o'clock, okay, you know what? What happens to all the depositions and all the research and all the stuff that was done before? Okay, that's something, right? But then how long can you be down before it starts affecting your business, before your client says, you know what, we need to move on this quick and you're not giving me the time that we need. And it's if you were the one that was responsible for getting faulty IT, or you're going to hear me say this a lot, cheap IT, then that's on you. So yeah, this is a really, really important concept that, again, not just IT leaders need to know, but everyone in the company, all C-level employees in the company.
Yeah, excellent point. Tyler, you walk us through the difference between RPO and RTO and kind of what does that mean from a business sense and their data?
Sure. So RPO is kind of how much data can you afford to lose? So when the last time your backups ran, the time between then and whenever the disaster occurs, I mean, can you go without yesterday's data that your staff entered? Will that be a huge disaster? We can get you back up and running, but if you're missing that period of time, if backups weren't continually running and available, how much pain is that going to cause? So the RPO that becomes important. I mean, especially if it's critical data like healthcare facilities, if you're seeing patients and you're entering information. I mean, that's not easy to go back and redo, especially with everything being digital. There's a lot of industries where that's painful. RTO is what you can tolerate during a disaster. So before critical systems are restored. So how long before the screaming starts, basically? Like how long you can be down and get along and keep business running until things are normal again. So, and that's something where testing is critical. I mean, if you don't know and there's a ransomware, an act of God, something like that happens, and you have no idea how long it'll take to get your systems restored. I mean, the only way to find out is to do it. Um,
Yes. Great. So that's really clear. So that's good. And Matt, you mentioned, significant IT and versus kind of cheap IT, right? And why it's a conversation that has to involve the CFO. And so I imagine logic would dictate that if you want immediate spin up so that the amount of time of data that you lose and the amount of time that it takes for you to spin back up,
Mhm.
right, is immediate or constantly, complete business continuity, then that's going to require a higher investment for organizations.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting about the channel, and nobody understands this. And when I say this, I do get the few heads that understand, like nodding in agreement. That was an excuse 10 years ago.
Right. I had a feeling I knew exactly where you're going.
And, right now through the channel, you're able to get enterprise solutions at at a very very easy competitive rate.
Right.
Like, in other words, if you were to go into Staples and buy, a 5.99, you know, cheap backup, that's what you're gonna get, you know?
Right.
So it's not a question of, good backup versus bad backup. I mean, again, we probably should just continue only use the word business continuity as opposed to backup, because that's what you're selling. But
Right.
with today's times, in today's market, there's no excuse to protect your IT infrastructure, and you need to protect it. And like, in other words, the amount of money that we spend on ensuring desk chairs or ensuring different things and security alarm systems and everything like that. The most important part of your company is your data, and you should put the proper investment into protecting that.
Right. And especially depending on what vertical they're in,
Oh,
right?
of
I
course.
mean, legal, healthcare, things like that. Or I think of manufacturing and the production floor,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. That's a very strong one.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter, right?
Hmm.
We could be in Lexington, Kentucky right now, and we could go to a bar across the street, and I could take you guys out for a couple drinks and some appetizers, and then all of a sudden I take out my credit card to pay, and the waitress or waiter tells me that the systems are down.
Right.
So now what do I have to do, right? I have to go to find an ATM. I got to make sure that I have money in that account. It's coming out of my personal account. Whatever the case may be. You know,
But it
I
disrupts the entire business flow.
well,
Like it
even
completely disrupts
exactly.
even one
operations.
step further than that, David. One step further than that, I'll never go to that place again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I will never go to that place again because of that. And so you
Right.
don't necessarily see the initial damage that it does, but
Yep.
it can have a catastrophic effect.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the difference between backups and disaster recovery.
Mhm.
And um, there's a big significant difference when we define terms. The common assumption is, well, I've got backups of my data, so I'm fine, because people that don't understand the technology and how it works, that's kind of what they default to.
Mhm.
But disaster recovery is kind of the overall plan for what level of business continuity that you want, right? Do you truly invest in business continuity so that that instance doesn't happen, like
Yeah.
the lacking of the ability to do the depositions, the lacking of the ability to access the healthcare records, the lacking of the ability to not be able to have your patrons at your establishment be serviced, right? um Let me ask Tyler, when you walk into a company and they you're speaking with them and they believe that they're protected, what's the gap you most often find between what their backups are and their ability to actually recover?
I mean, the thing I run into the most is a lot of assumptions and not a lot of reality. Like,
Yeah.
when was the last time you tested your backup? Oh, do you need to test those? And it's like the thought doesn't occur to them. And a lot of it's just kind of blind trust, which that's really not what you want when you're in a bad situation. And then the finger pointing comes out, and there isn't a lot of planning for who's responsible for what, and what are we going to restore to? Has that been tested? Do we have enough resources to be able to host everything, even if we did? Um, so I mean that I think that's the biggest gap, is kind of like a knowledge gap, actually. Just kind of an assumption that IT has been taking care of it by saying, "Oh yeah, you've got backups," but there's a lot more to it than that.
Well, and yeah, and it seems like this gets to that conversation. We're hoping that this webinar will spark some conversation between leadership and their IT providers, because there is a lot of blind trust, and sometimes look, internal IT have so much on their plate, right? They have to be everything, right? And meanwhile, Mrs. Buttermaker needs her toolbar fixed, and they've got to run over there right now. And there's all these things that they have to do, and they haven't had an incident yet, and so they're probably just making those assumptions, like you said, that the backups are fine, but without testing on a regular basis, right? You don't know, and so that creates a huge gap. It's a really good point. Matt, what are you seeing through your line of work in terms of some of the false sense of security that people have around business continuity and
Well,
backups?
yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I hate to keep repeating it, but understanding the difference between backup and business continuity is
Hmm.
probably the most biggest one.
Walk
Uh,
us through it. Explain it to me like I'm
well,
five.
backup is 10 cents to the business continuity dollar, right?
Right. Great
You want
point.
it,
Yep.
you want to, backup is just a piece of business
Right.
continuity. So that's the major thing. I will say this, and don't mean to give you a compliment, but like doing this right now, I'm literally not supposed to be here, but I'm here because obviously I know you guys and I've met you guys in the past, but I'm here because I believe in this. I
Right.
believe the fact that it's up to people like NetGain to go and make sure that these leaders know and make sure that their clients and their prospects know what the difference is between the two.
Yeah.
I can tell you probably one of the few companies that actually go and do this, as opposed to just trying to sell a quote unquote backup package. So I think it's important to understand, for people to understand what they are actually paying for on it and what exactly you are getting. Yeah, look, like IT people are like doctors, right? They can speak
Hmm.
their own language, and sometimes if they don't understand, if the person
They
is by
start using a lot of acronyms,
yeah,
right? They
like I
start
mean,
their
even
own
literally
acronyms.
RPO and RTO, it's
Right.
like post and should be before and after is what it really should be called, right? But
Yes.
but when they people are not going to buy when they don't understand something.
Right.
So, like a webinar like this is extremely, extremely important because it shows exactly what you mean. That if a backup, just because you have backup, it does not necessarily mean that you are protected, or
Right.
your business is going to be protected. And then we can throw out all these crazy stats that we've seen. 68% of companies that suffer a major data loss, they don't come back, right?
Right.
But people don't want to think that way, and it's important
Mhm.
that we have these conversations. These hackers, I mean, through the dark web and the sophistication, they're not thinking about solutions of today how to hack. They're thinking of solutions of tomorrow on how to hack. And what scares me are these like ransomware as a service and all these different toolkits and these profit sharing schemes. Okay, I'm going to
A
give you,
hundred percent, a
yeah,
hundred
I mean,
percent, because it's organized crime. Like
it's
it is
organized.
not some like kid in a hoodie in his mom's basement
No,
eating hot pockets. This is like organized crime. They have shift changes. They have managerial layers. They have like quotas they have to hit. And if
Help
you're
desk systems.
right,
but they
and if
also, they
you
also don't have to get paid. Like in other words,
right,
like if I do a crime and they pay $50,000, I don't have to upfront that money to the person that sold me the kit.
right,
I could do a profit sharing with him. You
yep,
know,
yeah,
so and
it's extremely lucrative.
yeah, what we are trying to do is make sure that people are improving their cyber hygiene. You know, But the problem is with companies like yours is that, okay, well, they view them as salespeople. No, you're not salespeople.
Right.
You are people that are protecting the very blood of the company.
Right.
So,
Good. And we didn't even pay you to say that. So that
yeah,
was fantastic, man. We really appreciate it. So uh, can either one of you guys share with us a story? You don't have to name the name, but share
I
us
could.
a story of a small mid-sized business that thought that they had backups, but
No, no,
then
no. Let's
like
let's 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 bypass that one. Okay, the small to medium sized business,
they
they like,
almost all of them don't
yeah,
have
like it's
the
yeah,
business
you're,
continuity that they need.
yeah. I got a story that I tell across the country, and I've told the story, and I don't think I've told it in Lexington, so I
Okay, so let's
apologize
hear it.
here.
Yeah.
But the greatest story that I've heard, and like let me, if you don't mind, let me preface this.
No,
I was
please.
at a conference in LA, and a guy comes up to me. He literally has a cowboy hat, and he has a dog, and he's an MSP. And he told me that he's got the greatest ransomware story he's ever heard, or that he's ever encountered. And I said to him, I said, "Look, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've seen and I've heard every single story. I go on bleepingcomputer.net every single day and I look at the
Mhm.
different stories." He goes, "This is going to be the best one." I go, "Lay it on me." He laid it on me. And I'll tell you right now, Tyler and David, it was the best story I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, well we got to hear it.
Okay. So, city of Florence, Alabama. Okay.
Oh yeah.
They get a call from Krebs on Security saying that there's something wrong or their names all over the dark web. All right. They ignored that call. Okay. 2 weeks later, they get an email. The city of Florence gets an email through, like, from a DHL. It was a phishing. They clicked on it. The IT director clicked on it, and bam, the whole entire city got hit with ransomware. Okay, the whole entire city. All right, so this went on for about 30 days. They wanted $330,000 to get everything back up and running again. All right, they didn't have a continuity plan in place. They ignored the Krebs warning, all the stuff there. Okay,
Right.
people were not getting paid. This is the worst part. If you called the police, they were rerouted to county. Same thing with the fire departments. Okay,
Oh, and
all
what
right.
that does to the logistics
Oh,
to the emergency services. Oh,
everything. So then what happened is that this went on for 30 days and they finally paid the $330,000. Okay. So now this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Okay. There was a packaging company that was working with the city of Florence. Okay.
mhm.
So while the bug was in there, it went over to the packaging company called Alliance Packaging. Okay. So go to the packaging company. Now they get hit. Okay. So they get hit, and the criminals wanted $250,000 to get everything back up and running again. This is where it gets cool. Okay. The Alliance company, the packaging company, calls up their MSP and says, "Hey, we had this thing happen, blah, blah, blah. What do we do?" Literally, the MSP was there in 20 minutes, completely took out the threat, okay, cleaned up everything, and bam, it was business as usual for them. So here you have this entire city
Really?
with
So
this
that's
multi-million
great to
dollar
hear.
budget. Okay, this entire city, this multi-million dollar budget, had to wait 30 days and had to pay the $330,000. Okay, and okay, so that's what happened with there. But then you had this smaller company, this rinky dink company, right? That I shouldn't say rinky dink, but a smaller company
Right.
that was
It's
working
not
with an
not
MSP.
as large as the
Yes,
city. Right. Right.
exactly. And because the fact that they were working with an MSP who mandated and all these different security protocols are in place, bam, they were up and running within 20 minutes and they didn't have to pay a dime. That's the story.
That is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
and you don't hear about that because those stories don't sell clicks, right? And so you only hear usually about the tragedies, right?
Yep.
Like people want to make fun of them or they want to like talk about the shock and awe.
Yeah.
But that's one that needs to be shared more often.
I will send you the links. It's a quick Google search.
Yeah,
You'll find it everywhere.
that's absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
So let's talk about immutability, immutable backups. It's a phrase that is used. We like terms of art in our industry.
Mm.
It's one that's kind of, in my mind, it's air gapped. It can't be changed or deleted once written. Why have attackers shifted to targeting? First, let me ask you this: why have attackers shifted to targeting backups directly? and how does immutability kind of change that outcome?
Me?
Let me go to Tyler on that one.
Well, I mean, I've seen it firsthand, and let me tell you, that's a sinking bad feeling when you're like, oh, let me just go simply restore from backups, and it's
Right.
a text file there with a ransom note, and all of the
Right.
backups are gone, or
Yeah.
they've actually compromised the cloud repository, and all of your backups are deleted. Um, that
It's
is not a good
it's a
day.
horrible feeling, and as first responders, when you have to deal with leaders, and they're like, this text file says I have to get on a talks channel and start talking to them, and they're like, I don't even know what that is,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, it's very emotional. It's really really tough to deal with. Um, uh, what is the benefit of having immutability? Like, explain it to us in non-technical terms. Either one of you guys,
Okay.
whoever wants to.
I mean, I could. It's. I mean, obviously, it protects you against ransomware and or the different threats that are out there. I mean, that's a major one.
Mhm.
Number two, it would be compliance. A lot of companies are required. I think I want to say is it HIPAA or one of them is
A bunch
requiring.
of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
requiring that you have immutable backups. And then again, as Tyler said, is that the data can't be altered, can't be deleted. It's there. There is a strategy, behind it, and it's important, and there's a reason why they do it. But in the most layman terms possible is that if you take out if a hacker is successful in conquering your backups and they're not immutable, you know, they've taken the gun out of your hand,
Right.
to protect yourself.
That's a really strong analogy. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Is it a heavy lift to engage in
No,
mutable
no,
backups? It's
it's
really not.
you let companies like mine handle that.
Right.
You just need to
Yeah.
know that they can't be deleted, and here's the reason why they can't be deleted. That's it.
Right.
You know.
And for leadership, I think it's important ask that question. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I get that we have backups, but are they immutable? Like, are they kind of hardened? Right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, have we had the conversation about before and after? Have we tested them? And then also, like, are they kind of hardened? Are they immutable? So
Yeah.
that way they can't be reached should we you know get a successful ransomware attack.
So I spent a little time on your website, and I have to tell you that I'm very very impressed with your resources. You have podcasts, you have blogs, you have case studies. These are important because these are important questions that your clients need to be asked. I could only assume is if your sales process is thorough as what your website is, that there is a checklist that you have to ask your prospects and your clients, and that would be a major question, right? I mean, in other words, take me through your current backup scheme. you know um
Well, 100%, because when we engage with to provide IT or cybersecurity services or a combination thereof, right?
yeah.
We want to know nobody benefits if we're sloppy and we just engage and we don't have all the controls in place and then you get breached. Like,
Yeah,
nobody's happy then,
nobody
right?
wins.
Right, nobody wins. And so the truth is that we do have those conversations, right? We want to make sure that those conversations are being had. And oftentimes we work part and parcel with the internal IT person, right?
Mhm.
Or internal IT team, or oftentimes if we're providing security and they have an IT MSP, we'll stay in our lane and we'll just do the security. But we just make sure that the conversations are being had,
Yeah.
because it just benefits everybody.
Yeah, I'm looking at this slide right here, and there probably should be two of them before incident detected. Like one
Yeah,
would be, like reconnaissance, right? When the hack,
right.
like who they're going to go after. Okay, and then the weaponization would probably be another one, right? Like to be
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, we're going to go after this company. How are we going to do it? What's the weapons? All right, we're going to go through LinkedIn, that
Right.
thing, and then the incident right there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And especially with the democratization of AI too. I mean, it has really sped up the attacker's ability to to come in. And I'm Matt, you've been in this, and so Tyler, you have too. I mean, we've been in this field for a while, and the one thing I have seen with AI is a lot of the older security awareness training that's out there. It's bad advice now. Like it's just not relevant, right? Like trying to spot a fish, things like that. Like why? Like that email is going to be perfect. That
Yeah.
email, because of AI, that email is going to look like it's coming from somebody from a vendor that you work with, right?
In
So
perfect English and no broken grammar.
absolutely, all those red flags, all that time spent training people on like how to spot one is irrelevant now. Same
Yeah.
thing with deep fakes and audio deep fakes. The bottom line is you just have to learn, what is this asking me to do? If it's asking me to release sensitive information, whatever, I have to go verify the human.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Like I have to go verify the human. I have to go call them on the number I know they're at, speak to them, walk down the hall if it's physical, right? And just verify the human. You do that, you're good to go. If you can't do that, you don't act, right?
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
it's really, it's become easier to provide the advice, harder to deliver on it,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk about cloud recovery.
Mhm.
And because when we think of backups, we think of the data. There is data that could be on premise, right? Physically there. There could be data that is there and an extra cloud copy, or it could be data that is flown straight up to the cloud. Traditional recovery often meant kind of ordering replacement hardware, right?
Mhm.
Rebuilding it for days. Cloud-based recovery, it seems like it lets you spin systems back up remotely, often in hours, right? Instead of days.
Right.
Walk us through. Let me ask Tyler this: like, walk us through what cloud recovery looks like in practice.
Sure. So I
Let's
mean,
say a manufacturing client, loses their on-site systems on a Monday morning. What's the path back?
so in the perfect world, there's a run book established that
Hmm.
we've tested things and we have a list of priority machines and the order that they need to come up in and who to contact, which departments to spin up an order. Oftentimes that doesn't exist. And one of my favorite examples is actually with Datto, and it was one of my first introductions to it. It's actually a tire business, and it completely burned to the ground. And we had just set up Datto like a month and a half before, and it was kind of a hard sell. But they had the cloud DR. We spun up all of the servers up in the cloud. And this was tax time, and they couldn't pay their employees. They couldn't finish their taxes. We got all the servers spun up. We got them reconnected via VPN. They all had to go home temporarily and work while they got a new facility built. And they were back up and running in a couple months. And they operated off of the cloud environment to get along that entire time, and didn't lose anything. Had all of their customer records. So I mean, that's kind of when I became a convert, and the actual process of spinning things up. Datto helped us with the networking portion. We had a VPN tunnel and VPN clients, and I mean, it was slick.
So their access to data happened right away, and then they were fully restored, like back with the facility and stuff within a couple months.
Yeah, and then
That's
then they
great.
then they repurchased, and they of course are permanently using Datto
I
from
was
now
gonna
on.
say
Wa-
they're converts now.
Once that
Yeah,
happens, you learn, and it was funny because it was kind of a hard sell for them,
yeah.
and I'm so glad that that did happen. I mean,
Well, it's tough. It's and look, we're not poking at leadership because it is a hard sell. Like if you're a business owner and you haven't had this happen to you, it's hard to imagine that it can happen to you. It's just like cybercrime. It's something that happens somewhere else. Right? It doesn't happen in our neighborhood. It doesn't happen to me. I'm too small, right?
Yeah.
Until it happens to you,
Yeah.
right? And it depends on how much you value your existence, like how much you value that baby that you're building. And you know these things happen. And the other side of the coin is it's not always in the news, right? Like the small businesses that get hit with these, they don't always make the news
No.
because they're not household names. And
Do you remember
statistic,
do you remember when it made the news? I remember. Do you remember the big one?
which one? Like, yeah, go
So,
ahead.
I mean, in other words, I've been doing this for so long,
Yeah,
and then I come home from a business trip, and my wife says, "Okay,
Target. There you go.
this ransomware thing that you've been talking about, it's on the front page of the New York Post."
Because
It was May 12th in 2017. WannaCry.
oh yeah, WannaCry hit
Yep.
everything. Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, and all you heard about was like FedEx and these banks and all that stuff
right.
that got hit. But as I said to my wife, I said this happens every single day.
It
You know,
does.
yeah,
I mean, statistically, it's hitting SMBs far more often,
yeah.
but it's just not publicized, and that's really
Yeah, you're right. I
the
mean, I
the
was when
frustrating thing.
I didn't read the invitation for this. I didn't read the invitation for this webinar. I thought I was presenting, because that would be a normal thing. I thought I was just
Right, exactly.
so I prepared a presentation, and when I prepared the presentation, and there's a portion of my presentation where I always go into local stories,
Yes.
and all you have to do is type in Lexington, Kentucky ransomware.
Oh yeah.
It talks
There's
about
a lot.
the hospital that just got hit. There's a
Hmm.
bunch of different stories,
Yep.
that are there.
Yeah, and any region that you're listening or watching this from,
Yeah.
just put a search in. You will find so many stories, and in some of the local papers, they may carry these stories.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's really tragic because it shutters doors sometimes, and if nothing else, it torpedoes them, right? Like it gets in the way of the growth plans that they had,
Well,
and
when you
that's the
read,
problem, right?
I mean, I don't have it up right now, but I mean, if you see this quote, so if you type in Lexington Hospital ransomware,
Mhm,
and I took this quote and I screen grabbed it and put it on its own separate slide, that there was a lady that was going in for surgery, and they
mhm,
couldn't do anything about the surgery because their systems were down, and then her conditions got a lot worse,
mhm.
and then they're talking about how doctors were like putting everything on like post-it notes, like paper and pen. That's how they were charting patient information. So the same way that you would go into, I don't know, a diner or a restaurant and order a cheeseburger is the same way that doctors were charting patient information.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean,
this was in Lexington, Kentucky.
yeah. I mean, we service a lot of different kind of
Yeah.
areas, and some of it is rural healthcare in
Yeah.
Ohio, rural healthcare in Kansas, Missouri, and when they get hit, some of these patients have to be rerouted to completely different systems.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's brutal. It's really a matter of life and death, and it's tragic because it's just, it's the technology. We've become so dependent. I think that's why it matters more today than it even did 10 years ago, because 10, 15 years ago, we had two versions of our world, right? We
Yeah.
had the computers, but we still had our paper, our kinetic, our
Yeah.
physical way of doing things, operations, etc. And they both kind of played symbiotically together. But now everything it's fully digitized. So when things go down and we can't immediately spin up, right? And we can't immediately access that data with true business continuity, it's it's a big impact.
It's a huge
Yeah, and you
impact.
you don't have the older staff that know how to do things the old-fashioned way and pull out the pen and paper, or like Matt had mentioned, like
Right.
the diner, their POS goes down. It's not like they're going to pull out the old cash register and plop it up on the
Well,
table,
yeah.
and
And
then
in healthcare, there you have a whole army of young people that have entered the workforce in the last 5, 8 years, right? They've never seen physical charts
Yeah.
ever. Like they wouldn't
You know,
know where to find them. Like,
there's a great scene. Did any of you guys watch The Pit?
oh yeah.
no,
Okay. Oh, if you watch The Pit, it's about an emergency room in Pittsburgh. It's a fascinating show. There's a whole episode dedicated to just this scenario that you're just talking about.
Mhm.
Like they were bringing out the old stuff, the charting the patient information and everything because their systems went down, and then they had to go and do everything. And you're absolutely right. The 25, 30-year-olds are like, whoa, what is this? What's going on here? Like, is this really the way that you used to do things?
Yeah. I mean, and you start to realize why we digitized
Yeah.
everything. Like, there's a reason we've
Carbon paper.
gone through, right?
Yeah.
The carbon paper, the 4 copies, 1 copy of this department, 1 copy of that department.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's a reason we've done it, but the risk there is we are more digitally dependent.
Yep.
Let's talk about what downtime really costs, guys. Like, because I think this is a good slide for leaders to talk with their IT and security providers, right? Like what does it really cost? Because it's not just, oh, we have to get these Excel spreadsheets. Oh, we might not be able to access them for a couple hours. No. Like, operations stop, right?
Mhm.
And when that happens, what does that actually mean? Like, actually do the math, right? There's lost revenue. You won't be able to access CRM. You won't be able to access your invoicing, customer data, etc. And then you have all the idle labor. Think of what it costs you with
Mhm.
all your employees every day that they can't work, and you're paying for that, right? And
Mhm.
then you've got the downtime, the churn, the effort to get back up, the extended recovery, right? Because there's always that long tail kind of effect. And then I think Tyler or Matt, one of you guys brought up kind of the intangible losses, right? Oh, Matt, it was you. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't go back to that restaurant again,
Yeah.
right? Because
There's two that's missing. One is lawsuits.
oh yeah, I didn't even throw in the litigation part.
Lawsuit would be
Do
that, hey,
those happen in America? Are
oh
people
God, in
like people
America,
sue
of
people?
course.
Really?
Yeah, because the coffee's too hot.
That's right, because the coffee's too. I've read that transcript.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, a lawsuit, you go into a dentist, their systems are down,
Yeah.
you're in pain, your tooth is really hurting, and you say to the lady that, or the man, you say, hey, I need a script for, I don't know, some sort of pain,
Right. Whatever it is. Yeah.
Vicodin, yeah,
Yeah.
and you just wear her down. You just completely wear her down until finally she goes in, she writes a script. You go to the deli or the deli, you go to the pharmacy, and you get the Vicodin. But in those systems, it says, "Do not issue Matt Vicodin. He's allergic to it. He's
Right.
an addict. He's a something." Who's going to
Exactly.
get sued? Who's going to get
Yeah.
sued?
That's
So
right.
lawsuit is
Great
one,
point.
and then the other one is reputation. Yeah, reputation of the place. Nobody wants to work with a company that doesn't take value in their systems and protecting their IT environment.
Well, I just think that's human nature too.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyler, I think we've talked about this, like with customers, like customers that choose to invest in their own data and their own protection, they tend to be growing faster than the others, right? Like, because their customers, right? All of us serve somebody who serves somebody else, and their customers feel more comfortable knowing that when they do business, when they hand them credit cards, when they do invoicing, when they're making wire transfers, when they're doing that, they feel more comfortable knowing that they have eyes on it.
Yeah, and having to have that afterwards conversation after like ransomware or something like that, that uncomfortable press releases, having to talk to your partners and down chain customers about why you weren't, I mean, especially like in production, manufacturing. We couldn't manufacture anything for a month, and this is why X, Y, Z. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the damage done there is that takes a while to regain that trust, and it's not great.
Yeah.
So what are some of the practical steps, like in the next 90 days, if I'm a business owner, what are some of the steps that you should be taking to determine, are my backups set up right? Do I have true business continuity? Do I need business continuity? Who do I have that conversation with? What are some of the things that they need to do? Tyler, like, tell me some of the conversations you've had with business leaders, and what could they be, what steps should they be looking to take in the next 90 days?
I mean, I think it starts with kind of an assessment, like what you have, how things look, what your capabilities are, what can you do with what you currently have, and then moving into the testing part of it, actually verifying that things function the way that you want them to, and coming up with a clear timeline. Like, I mean, it just because you want things to be up and restored in 24 hours doesn't necessarily mean that that's realistic until you actually test it. So testing and assessment, like you have here, setting an RTO and RPO afterwards that's based on reality with what you have, and adjusting to meet what your expectations are. So prioritization, if one department is more important than another, then have a documented plan and you prioritize which sectors of the business need to be spun up first, which ones cause the most screaming and pain, and address those in order. Um, and then coming up with a long-term plan to test things. So don't just do it once and then we're good. That needs to be a regular thing. And if you introduce if the business grows and you're introducing more and more functions and resources, then that needs to be taken into account as well. So I think 90 days would probably, first 30 days backup assessment, second chunk 30 days recovery prioritization, and then the last probably testing, followed up by documentation.
Makes sense. Matt, what's the single most common mistake that, let's say, if it's fixed, gives a company the biggest jump in their recovery readiness?
Well, I'll probably answer that in a different way. I mean, I would say that companies that don't make their IT reseller part of their business strategy and business plan are the ones that are going to find themselves in trouble. Um, you know, you got to learn how to, trust the experts. And I think that it has to be a philosophical change. When I first started in 2015, I had Texas as my territory, and yeah, I got rich off the people from Dallas that believed in the cloud, right?
Right.
They believed in in selling a cloud solution, while the other ones didn't.
Yeah.
They were sort of archaic in their tape backup and all that stuff. So it's a mindset. This whole entire world has turned IT. I tell this story, and I'll be quick on it, but I tell this story about when I bought this house in 2009, the one that I'm in right now. Um, I had a neighbor behind me, and he was a landscaper, and he still is actually. And anyway, when I started with Datto, the big joke was that I was a nerd. Like I'm a nerd because I'm dealing with IT. I'm one of those guys. So it was the big neighborhood joke, and I'll never forget. In 2019, he called me over to his house because he had to show me something, and his business has grown and all that stuff. And he had a computer, and on a computer he had a program where he could actually take the dimensions of your backyard,
Mm,
and then he could go and digitally fill them with the different types of trees and bushes and paths and all that stuff.
hmm
And I looked at him and I said, "Who's the nerd now?" Right?
Right. Exactly.
Like every single thing that we do is now, has it's attached to IT. So
Right.
you, the big thing that I'm saying is that we got to focus on, because we're so dependent on IT, we got to make sure that we have the systems and the right systems in place in order to protect it. And having these conversations with your IT reseller and making sure that they're part of your strategy is going to get you where you want to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a blurred line too between our personal lives and our private life, and
Yeah.
and our professional lives too, right? The mobile devices have blurred those lines. They have access to everything, and so really, you know, getting people, all employees, to kind of lean in on that is really important.
There's IT solutions that prevent you from sending out emails that have, bad words or offensive language in it is the better way of saying it.
Right.
I mean, that there's actual, programs that, so it's like protect people against themselves, right?
Right. I
So
always try and work my way around those, but
yeah,
they
yeah,
they still always apply.
yeah, they do.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, both of you, thank you so much. It was a really good conversation, and I
Great.
love the stories. I'm gonna dive into that one that you shared, Matt, and I'm gonna integrate that into some of the conversations that we have as well. And for anybody wanting to go a little bit further or um, talk further to assess things, we have a no cost, nothing salesy, a tech forward workshop available. There's information on the screen. There's a QR code, or you could check that out. It's right on our website at netgainit.com. And we just kind of provide roadmaps for organizations. Ask the right questions and make sure that you're having those conversations with the people that are involved directly and indirectly with your technology. So we thank everybody for participating today and for joining us. Guys, thank you both so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to see you guys again.
Great to see you. Thank you.
All right, take care.